Okay, we're now going to be learning a new Mishnah. Everyone have the booklets? Thank you, Pirkei Avos. Thank you, Bas. So we're going to the front of the beginning of the booklet. Beginning of the booklet is where the Mishnahs are, and we're doing Mishnah 12. Okay. Mishnah 12. Yeah. So Mishnah 12 begins like this. Hillel v'Shammai kiblu mehem. Hillel and Shammai, they received the tradition from those sages that were mentioned before. Remember, we said when we started Pirkei Avos that Pirkei Avos deals with three things. One of them is to understand how precious Torah is. One of them is with dealing with character traits. And the third thing is telling us the tradition, the chain of how Torah was transmitted from one generation to the next. Who were the people in each generation that they were the greatest authorities of Torah? They knew and had the vast knowledge of Torah, and they were the ones who transmitted to the next generation. So the previous Mishnah had the names Shmaya and Avtalion. They were the greatest sages, and they were the greatest authorities of Torah in their generation. And the next one is Hillel and Shammai. These names are more known. Hillel and Shammai were both students of the same teachers. And now he's going to give over a statement made by Hillel and later a statement made by Shammai. This is first Hillel. Hillel says, one should be a disciple of Aaron. Aaron is the brother of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is our teacher. We call him Moshe. Rabbeinu means our teacher. Why? Because he's the teacher of Torah. So even though Aaron was also involved, but we don't really have things we can say, oh, this is something Aaron taught us. Aaron gave over whatever Moshe Rabbeinu taught us. But here it says we should be Aaron's students, which means to follow his footsteps. Where am I reading from? Yeah. In the beginning of the booklet, you have the Mishnah. These pages are different quotes related to the Mishnah, but in the beginning, you have the actual Mishnah. So I'm reading the Mishnah. It's Mishnah 12. Got it? To the bottom of the page.
It's just 1 and 2. And when you go to 12, it says love for fellow Jew.
Yeah, but again, this is the part which is the Mishnah. And we're doing Mishnah 12.
Mine only has 1 and 2. Oh, thank you.
Every Mishnah we do, we first go to the front to do the Mishnah inside, and then we go to the page that has the different references and statements and quotes and so on. So he said like this, one should be a student of Aaron, means follow Aaron's footsteps. Ohev Shalom, you should love peace. Roid of Shalom, you should pursue peace. And the third thing is, Ohev Esabrius, love people. Mekarvan Torah. This describes Aaron. Aaron was a person that he loved peace. That he could love something, but you might not be so proactive to get it. But Aaron was not only love peace, he was proactive to create peace between people. He had a love for all people. He loved all beings. And Mekarban Torah brought them close to the Torah. So what does it mean? What's so unique about Aaron? So this is found also in Rashi and Chumash, that the Torah describes what happened when Moshe passed away, and the Torah describes what happened when Aaron passed away. And there's something very, looks like it's just a little point, but actually it shows there was a difference between Moshe and Aaron. When Aaron passed away, it says that all the Jews came to his funeral, everybody was there. By Moshe doesn't emphasize this thing that everybody was there. So Rashi says that the reason for this is Aaron was known as a peacemaker. He made every effort to make peace between husband and wife, or peace between two people that had an argument. But it appears that primarily it was peace between husband and wife. And therefore, by his funeral, everyone came out, the men and the women. Moshe, of course, he was a great teacher of Torah, but it didn't affect the women that much on a personal level, like Aaron. So we don't find that they made the same effort to come to the funeral. Of course, I'm sure many women came just because he was Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's not on the same level. In fact, the Gemara actually tells us what his technique was. He had an interesting technique, and we learn halachas from that technique. That he would go to one person, to the husband, and he'd say, I heard that you and your wife had some little issue, spoke to your wife actually, and she said she feels very bad about what happened, and she really would like to apologize, but she's afraid that you're not going to accept it. She said, really? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Then he went to the wife, and he told her the same story, that your husband is really very sorry about what happened, feels very bad, and he'd really love to apologize, but he's not sure how you're going to take it. And she said, oh, okay, now that she realized that her husband realizes that he did something wrong and he needs to apologize, she feels like forgiving him. When the two met, each one was under the impression that the other one was sort of asking for forgiveness. So they met and they got it together. And that apparently was a certain approach that he used. And the Gemara says, from this we learn a halacha, that even though lying is prohibited in Torah, but when it comes to something like bringing peace between two people, especially between husband and wife, for that purpose, if that's going to be the purpose why you're going to be not so honest, it's permissible. So that means not only he loved peace, but he actually pursued peace, which means he was proactive in making peace between people. The second thing was, Ayivas Havris means he loved everybody. He had unconditional love for every person, didn't judge people. And the third thing is that being that he loved them, of course, he wanted the best for them. So the best would mean they should have what they need, food, clothing, a home, happiness. But because he wants them to have the best, so of course, Mekarbel Torah, he would bring them Torah closer to Torah, because he knew that spiritually, and that'll also bring a blessing for them, and physically, he made every effort to bring them closer to Torah. So there's really something to say about each one of these things, but let's turn to page 12 now, and we'll start from here. So obviously, when we talk about character traits, which one is this? This is what we refer to as Avas Yisrael, love for a fellow Jew. And this is based on a pasuk in Chumash. Really, all character traits have their roots somewhere in the Torah, but not everything is written explicitly in the Torah. It's an extension of something, it's a branch of something, but in this case, it's explicitly in the Torah. What? Oh, page 11, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Stand.
12 review. Like,
you're right, I stand corrected. It's the Mishnah 12.
Yeah.
So what does it say in the Torah? The words are, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamecha." You should love a fellow Jew as yourself. And then, I'm still reading on top of the page, the number 1. Then it says, Rabbi Kiva says, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. This is a basic principle of Torah, which means, what does it mean, a basic principle of Torah? First of all, it means to say that this is something essential. This is something central to Torah. But being more specific, there are a lot of halachas and a lot of mitzvahs that they're all an extension of this one mitzvah. So it's like a general principle that includes a lot of details. For example, when we learned in previous chapter that it's a mitzvah to visit someone that's sick, it's a mitzvah that gives tzedakah to someone that's poor, it's a mitzvah to help a chassan and kala. It's a mitzvah, God forbid, if someone passes away, to help with the arrangement that they should have an honorable burial. All these things, each one they're separate mitzvahs, but they're really all an extension of one general mitzvah, which is love your fellow like yourself. And this is the reason why it's called klal gadol. It's a general principle which includes many other details. But on the other hand, we also see from this that even though there are 613 mitzvahs, this is something which is in a way more crucial than others because it's a general principle that includes a lot of details. But then there's another statement in Gemara which brings out even more how crucial this is, how central this is to all of Torah. And that's number 2. The words in number 2 are Aramaic, that's why it looks so strange. But this is the quote, Ma da aloch sani lechaveroch lo yisavid. Sani means hate. Ma da aloch sani, what you hate, what you would not like for yourself, don't do to your friend. So this is a story in Gemara that there was a sage, there was a non-Jew who wanted to convert. So he went to the greatest sage at that time, who was Shammai. We just said there were 2 sages, Hillel and Shammai, and they were the authorities of Torah in that generation. So he went to Shammai. Now Hillel and Shammai, they're very well known by most people, and the reason is because they were not only 2 sages, but they established 2 schools that for generations were following their way of learning, their way of approaching, their way of thinking. And the general difference between the 2 was Hillel was more lenient and Shammai was more strict. So in most of the cases where there's difference of opinion, we see a certain consistency, that Hillel is usually more lenient, Shammai is more strict. So what happened was that this person came to Shammai and said, I'm interested in converting to Judaism, but I'd like you to teach me the entire Torah as I stand on one leg. So Shammai said to him, goodbye. Basically, you're not serious. You want to learn the whole Torah as you stand on one leg? You're not serious. And he didn't allow him to pursue it. So he heard that Hillel is more lenient, so he went to Hillel. And he said exactly the same thing. I'm here, I want to study Torah, I want to become a Jew, but I want you to teach me the entire Torah as I stand on one leg. So he said, no problem. I'll tell you the whole Torah on one leg. The whole Torah on one leg is this. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want others to do to you. All the rest is commentary. Yeah.
So I was thinking about this last night. I'm in this group chat at my university, and there's about 600 people there, so it's easy to publicly embarrass somebody. Somebody kind of publicly embarrassed themselves because basically we were talking about a problematic event with different speakers, and one of the speakers is a Jewish Voices for Peace activist. So this person said, don't slander her, like, I'm also part of Jewish Voices for Peace, and then all of the Jews, like not all the Jews, but a lot of Jews were like, this organization's a disgrace, like that's embarrassing, this is self-hating Jewry, whatever. So then I thought, Ahavas Yisrael, like this makes my blood boil, this is very self-deprecating, it's a shanda, but they're attacking this individual. So I said, I strongly disagree with this organization, I really don't like them, but the most important thing is to direct our anger towards those directly oppressing us. Was that the right thing to do, to stand up for this person because they're a Jew, even though they're very self-deprecating and harming our people? Or should I have let them get some, I don't know, gvura? Like, what do you think? Because they, like, honestly, like I felt like such a stupid, like, naive person. Oh, whatever, their feelings. Like, I didn't mean what I said, but I thought, isn't this what God would want?
Right, so then let's ask another question. If we're supposed to have unconditional love for every Jew, how can I have unconditional love for someone who does something like this?
So are you supposed to make sure their feelings aren't hurt and everything, or can you let them get it from other people and not stand up for them? Because it's a public thing where they are publicly being, I don't know, embarrassed, but even though they embarrass themselves, are you supposed to say, let's love one another and put these politics aside and support and uplift one another? Or are you supposed to let them get a kick in the tush?
Generally speaking, we're not supposed to be attacking the person.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be attacking the theory, the concept, the principle, the theology. So if we focus on that, it doesn't really, I mean, of course, the person who is spreading it and saying whatever they're saying to support, let's say, Hamas, is doing tremendous injustice to all those people who suffered and are suffering, and basically encouraging these murderers to continue doing what they're doing, which is a terrible thing. But our focus should not be on the person. Our focus should be on the idea, to explain how this idea is unacceptable.
So just don't get personal, but then you can publicly criticize, like, how could he be a part of this movement? This is bad. Like, that's fine. Just don't get personal.
We can, you talk about the idea, not the person.
Somebody says, like, part of what I was doing was people saying you're a self-hating Jew, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, is that getting personal?
That's getting personal, Because now, what's the difference what he is and what he's not? The main thing is to bring out that the idea that he's promoting is wrong.
Yeah, I just didn't like to bring Mashiach. I didn't believe a word of what I was saying, but I wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you another thing. In any kind of dialogue between two people, once it becomes personal, then people are never ready to go down from their high horse and change their mind, change their opinion, because you're attacking me. When you have a discussion about a subject and an idea, then this is my idea, this is your idea. But if you start attacking me, then naturally, the natural reflex is I want to defend myself. And it becomes a power struggle rather than a struggle about what's right and what's wrong. It's who's right and what's wrong. And people will do everything and anything and say ridiculous things just to come out right. Now, this saying is not a simple matter. It's something which really needs a lot of commentary, a lot of explanation. What does it mean that this is the whole Torah and everything is commentary? We could understand what it means when you probably know that the mitzvahs of the Torah are divided into two categories. One category is called Bein Adam Lamakom, mitzvahs that pertain to the relationship between me and Hashem. The other category is called Bein Adam Lachaveiro, mitzvahs that pertain to the relationship between me and other people. So when you talk about the relationship between me and other people, you can say that this one statement, don't do to others what others wouldn't do to you, could include in it all the other things that have to do with relationship, interpersonal relationship. But how could that be related to Shabbos? How could that be related to Kashrus? How could that be related to other things that between me and Hashem, not between me and other people? So we'll just put that on the side for the moment. That needs to be understood. I want to talk about another point in that statement, like why was it in the negative? Why shouldn't it be in the positive? Do for others what you would want others to do to you. Why is it in the negative? Don't do to others what you wouldn't want others to do to you. And one of the answers to that is that this statement also helps us in being able to understand if it's a positive thing or the negative thing. You just gave an example. Like, let's say I'm telling somebody how wrong they are and how terrible it is, and I'm putting them down, I'm speaking against them. The reason why I'm doing it is because in my mind, I'm doing something which is right, and this is a good thing. So I feel that it's a good thing. Very often when people insult someone or they hurt their feelings in one way or another, in their minds, they also think that it's okay to do it. One of the ways that we can use as a gauge, how can I gauge what is really okay, is not okay? In a sense, this is a good way to gauge it. Would I appreciate if someone would talk like that to me? If somebody would say these words to me? And if I know that this would hurt me, then if I don't want someone to do it to me, then I shouldn't do it to someone else. Regarding the other question, it's a little bit more complicated. Let me see after we finish everything if I get back to it. But there's a chapter in Tanya. The chapter in Tanya is chapter 32. Actually, there were 32. In Hebrew is Lamed Beis, which means the heart. So it's known that this chapter, which talks about Avos Yisrael, is sort of the heart of Chassidus. And over there, the Alter Rebbe gives an explanation according to Chassidus. But let's put this on hold for a moment. Let's go to the next one. Number 3. As you know, there are different customs when it comes to all the areas of Yiddishkeit and davening as well. The Chabad custom is based on the writings of the Arizal, where he writes that before the davening begins, we should say, I take upon myself to fulfill this mitzvah, the mitzvah of unconditional love for every Jew. Why is it this particular mitzvah and why this particular time? So one of the answers to this question, what?
It's being close to us.
Is what?
No, somebody from outside.
Oh, okay. Oh, I hear. The previous Rebbe said that when he became bar mitzvah, his father said to him that when I became bar mitzvah, my father said to me, that when I became bar mitzvah, my father said to me, and basically all the way down to the first Rebbe, that on the day of the bar mitzvah, he said, ask me any question you want, and I'll make an effort to give you an answer. So the previous Rebbe, his father said the same thing to him, ask me any question you want on the subject of Judaism, I'll give you an answer. And this was his question. Why do we say this phrase, I accept upon myself, Avos Yisrael, why do we say it before davening? So the answer that his father gave him was that we know Hashem's relationship with us is twofold. First of all, he's our king. He gives us commandments, what to do. On the other hand, it's also like a father and children. That's why in davening, when we refer to Hashem, we use the term Avinu Malkeinu, our father, our king. He's both. He's like a king and we are his subjects. He's like a father and we are his children. Of course, the difference is that a king and subjects, it's a different kind of relationship. Father and children is much more of a love relationship between father and children. So, as a father, there's no greater pleasure that parents have than to see that their children are getting along with each other. There's nothing that sort of tears them apart more, I'm talking about from a father or mother perspective, is to see that the children aren't getting along with each other. So I'm going to daven, I'm going to ask Hashem to fulfill my wishes and the things I'm asking for. So before I do that, I want to give something to Hashem which would give him pleasure. And therefore, when I say to Hashem that I love every Jew unconditionally and express it that way, then this is the greatest pleasure Hashem could have as a father. And therefore, when I come and I make my requests, I'm sort of it's more conducive for my requests and my wishes to be fulfilled. And there's actually an interesting story with the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash was built on a mountain in Yerushalayim. And there's a lot of history to this mountain in the Chumash itself. That's the mountain where Yaakov fell asleep. That's the mountain where Avraham Avinu did the Akedah, brought his son Yitzchak. He had that test of the Akedah. That's the place where Adam Arishan, the first human being, was born. It was created. Hashem took the sand and the earth from that spot. But the Medrash tells a story. It was once a big campaign where people were looking for the Medrash. So some people say it's not a Medrash, and some other source. I never remember finding the actual source, but we always grew up knowing this Medrash, that there were two brothers, and they lived on two sides of the mountain. One brother was wealthy, but he had no children. The other brother had a family, but he had no money. And they cared for each other. And one time, the brother that was wealthy said to himself that, what can I do to make my brother happy? And he knows where he keeps all the wheat stored. And he said he's going to go to his farm, take a bundle of wheat. He'll go early in the morning before his brother wakes up. put it down. When he'll wake up in the morning, he'll find more wheat than he thought he had, and it'll make him happy. The other brother also loved him, and he knew that he's rich, but nevertheless, he thought maybe the surprise, I guess, the idea that he will see there's more in his field than he thought he had will make him happy. So he did the same thing. They both had the same idea at the same time. So the brother wakes up in the morning. I was really shocked to find that he has something which he thought wasn't supposed to be there. He knew he had so many bundles, and now he has exactly the same amount as he had before he gave it away. The other brother also woke up. He said, "I gave away a bundle, but I have exactly the same amount." So it was a puzzle. He couldn't figure it out, mystery. One day, or rather one early morning, he's walking up the mountain, and he's carrying his bundle, and the other brother is also walking up the mountain from the other side carrying his bundle. When they get to the top of the mountain, they see each other. When they see each other with the bundles, they realize, so that's why you have an extra bundle every day. They also realize the love that they have for each other, and they're both out to make the other one happy. And there on top of the mountain, they fell on each other's shoulders, and they were just crying from emotion to see the love they have for each other. And when that happened, Hashem said, this is the spot where I want to build the Beis HaMikdash. So in a sense, the Beis HaMikdash is also considered a house of prayer. In the Tanakh, in one of the books of the prophets, we also have it in davening. It's called Beis Tefillah. It's a house of prayer. So we see the whole entire house of prayer is also based on a place where such great unconditional love, one to the other, was sort of displayed. So this is Avos Yisrael. One of the things which we have to talk about is that in some ways people will say this is one of the hardest mitzvahs to observe, to have unconditional love for everybody, even people that didn't do such nice things and so on. So how are we supposed to deal with it? We're coming to the end of the class. I'll just give a certain point, and then next week, Mirz Hashem, on Tuesday, we'll continue. And that is that there's two things when it comes to all mitzvahs that we talk about how to do it properly, and the same as with Avos Yisrael. One is thought, speech, and action. And the other is a real genuine feeling in the heart. In other words, if I'm, for example, feeling angry at somebody, I'm so angry that I want to scream at them, I want to insult them, I want to call them names. I'm so angry, I want to hurt them. I'm so angry, I want to do damage to their possession, break something that belongs to them. So maybe I can't control the feeling in my heart, but I could control my actions, not to do anything. I can control my mouth, not to say anything. And as we'll learn a little bit later, even though it doesn't look like it, I can also control my thoughts. And that's where we start from. Number one in the negative and the same in the positive. I might not have this feeling, I love this person, I'll give them a gift, I'll say something nice, just to make them feel good, even though I can't say I really feel it genuinely in my heart. But if this is gonna make them feel good, I can say something nice, I can do something nice, and that's where we begin. We begin with the outside. Eventually, if enough of that is done, we can also reach to change things on the inside. So when the question comes up, how could you say, Avos Yisrael, I can't just love somebody, I'm a human being. And first of all, there are people, I don't even know them, how can I love them? Second of all, somebody who hurt me, somebody who's really nasty to me, how can I love them? And the answer is, we can start with action and speech. That's the first stage. The next thing is we can even start with thought. That's much more difficult. How is it possible for a person to control their thought, not to think negatively about another person when I happens to be someone who did something really negative? So, b'li neder, the next time we have this class, we'll go into that. Continue, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, have a success.